What happened to Tyre Nichols is traumatic, definitely uncalled for, definitely illegal, but not surprising.
Yeah.
Because if you look at it, it looks just like a gang beating, right? And so people will look at it and they will condemn the actions of what occurred because it's worthy of condemnation. But a person like me who's a trainer, who, is in the behavioral sciences as an anger management specialist and a parenting coach, certified in these things, I look at things just a little bit differently. Okay. I'm looking at what caused the behavior and how can we prevent it from happening in the future.
Right.
If you think about it as it relates to law enforcement, black law enforcement officers are different from white law enforcement officers in a few areas, probably more than most. One, well, how much time you got? You got time? You got a little time?
I got a little time.
Okay, a little time. Okay. One, I will say this. If you look at, let's take for instance Chicago. Perfect example. Law enforcement communities, Mount Greenwood, Beverly, Ravenswood, and other communities where Hegwish, where law enforcement officers live. Look at those communities. Middle class, maybe a smidgen of pigeon touching on that upper class, but mainly middle class city workers, right? Middle class workers. Take away those union jobs and those city jobs, and they become what class? The lower class. Right. Let's talk facts, right? Okay. So when you got them in those type of jobs, right, you have the money and the family history of other people who've been in those jobs too, where you have a cohesive working community. May not be perfect, but it's better than most, right? Or better than some. So then when you have the white young officer from those communities that go be a police officer, you've got your academy training, you've got your field training, and then when they're off the clock, guess what they come home to? The community that embraces law enforcement, embraces, community, and they can go to the retired cops at the bars, at the neighborhood functions in the community. They can talk about what I experienced on the job, and then you get the knowledge and wisdom, either good or bad. You get that off the job or off the clock, but in the community place to vent about your experiences on the job. Those communities support the career that you're in. Black community, if you a black law enforcement officer, you still got the academy training, you still got your partners that you work with on the job, but once you're off the clock, what community are you coming to? Is the black community for or against law enforcement? Against law enforcement, right? Yeah. And so if you're a black law enforcement officer, it's almost as if you gotta hide in the community you live in. Yeah. Now, this is not always the case, but it is mostly the case. Yeah. So all the stuff that you experience on the job, you gotta stuff it. You have no one you could talk to in your community who will give you a chance to vent without shame or judgment, and who can provide you that, don't do that, here's what you do.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? That guidance. Right. Training is just not what you do on the job and in the academy and on the street. It's also what communities you're coming back home to help you have a place to vent and learn how things should be done, or even how to do things bad.
Right.
And let me tell you how I know these 5 officers had no mentors from the community or even on the job. You see a lot of different videos that are out there of shootings that are questionable, or even shootings that are not questionable. They're justified, but the community doesn't understand it. You see a lot of different things, but one thing you rarely see is the officers getting together, laughing and joking about what just happened and trying to manufacture a story to cover what they did. That is the difference in this situation where you got 5 black officers getting together, laughing and joking about what they did, trying to come up with cover stories saying he grabbed for my gun when that never happened.
Right.
See, white law enforcement officers have already got the off the clock in the community training that lets you know after an incident, you don't talk.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk? Because somebody's already recording. Somebody's always recording. Your body camera is on.
Right.
And whether you were right or wrong, you did it.
Yeah.
And so an investigation is soon to come. White folks know that.
Yeah.
Black folks, especially if you look at the 5 and it's alleged that 3 of them are involved in gang activity, right? What do they do in the gangs? After we slide on the ops, what do? Go to social media and brag about it.
Yeah.
So if you got those people, those 5 officers that come from that mindset in the hood, just because you put on the badge and the clothing of a police officer doesn't mean you have the mindset of the profession.
Yeah. That's crazy.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of black law enforcement officers, unfortunately, who live in a community where they have no community to come to that will understand the profession they chose. So you got all that stuff, both good and bad, that you experience on the department and no one to talk to. So you stuff it.
That's crazy.
That's crazy, right?
That's crazy.
There's a thing within criminology called double marginality, right? Where the black community don't like the fact that you the police. As soon as they see you as the police, you the ops. Now, you may have gotten on the department to be the change that the community wants to see. But as soon as they see you with that uniform, you already attacked before you begin to have a chance to show them, hey, I'm different.
Right.
Get too much exposure to that attack, and now these good intentioned officers become defensive against the community because if you ain't gonna give me a chance to show you I'm better, fuck y'all.
Right. Right.
So now the community corrupts a good intentioned black cop and makes him decide to go down that road. Or if you don't go down that road, you got to navigate it just a little bit differently. See, the community don't want to take its share of the responsibility in cultivating good intentioned officers to become black. Though the choice is still that officers, the community has a part to play in it too, because these officers don't have a community to come home to. Little Bobby can go to O'Toole's or Timothy's or O'Shaughnessy's, the neighborhood Irish pubs, and sit there and talk to the current and former law enforcement officers who are in that bar to get that off-the-clock training. Where we going to, motherfucking McDonald's?
Right.
Goddamn Leon's barbecue and shit? Motherfucking Shoney's from back in the day?
Ooh,
We gonna go to Forest City and go to the food court, and all the black law enforcement officers gonna meet in the food court, and we gonna talk about how hard it was to patrol in Inglewood. Where the black law enforcement officers going?
Right.
They don't have no place to go. So we already don't have a community when you growing up as a kid.
Right.
Then you decide to get into law enforcement, and we don't have a community too?
Right.
Oh. So what do people do? All these emotions, all this anger, all this stuff, and we're not taking into consideration another thing, and I'm going to go ahead and push from this conversation to get you going. Look at what motivates people to get to these professions. See, the department is good at capitalizing or benefiting off of the unresolved trauma from the community.
Right.
You think about it. If you were bullied as a kid, and this isn't all law enforcement, but this is a segment of it. Because if we're talking about being honest in the behavioral sciences, let's talk about what makes sense. So you were bullied as a child. Let's just make it deep. At home, both of your parents abusive. Oh, good intention, but they are what they are.
Right. You
get bullied at school. You don't become a gang member. You decide you don't want to be a part of that, even though that influences that too. Right. You decide, oh, I'm going to defend myself against, because I felt defenseless as a kid. I'm going to defend myself against those who can't defend for themselves because I know what it's like to be that.
Right.
Looking at the bunch of professions that are out there. Which one makes sense to go to? Law enforcement. Why? Because as a police officer, you exercise rule and authority and dominion over people. And if they don't comply, you can force them to comply. Whoa, that sounds exciting for a person who's gone through human trauma.
Right.
Right? Look at the military. The military capitalizes off of the unresolved trauma of people. Look at where the majority of these recruiting stations are at. In communities where you have low-income folks, be it black or white or Mexican, right? If you just put a map of where the recruiting stations are and then look at the poverty rates, you will find that there are a majority of these recruiting stations in those impoverished areas, right? In those places where it's well-to-do, you may find one or two because it's still the vehicle by which officers could get in, right? ROTC, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But mainly it's your enlisted folk. You know, there's more enlisted than there are officers. And we need to get them from places where there's unresolved trauma so we can give them something to aspire to. But the one thing the military and law enforcement is not good at doing is helping you deal with your unresolved trauma.
Yeah. But don't they go through some kind of like before y'all go through y'all training and stuff like that? Don't they have you talk to people about trauma and stuff like that?
Yeah, but guess what? If psychologists were really doing their job and weeding out everybody who's got trauma, the department would be spending more money on the psychologists who still have to get paid for their services, but the departments and the government wouldn't get their return on investment. So they got to let some people slide through so they can still fill their ranks, because a body responding to the call is better than nobody responding to the call.
Right. It's crazy.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so why do you think you have police officers committing suicide? Why do you think you have veterans committing suicide? Because here you are thinking, last point, oh my God, I got this job. I'm making 6 figures. I'm doing great. I'm going to go ahead and get married. Oh my God, Becky, love me. I'm white, right? Becky, love me. Yes. Becky can't take everything that you go through on the job, because when you sign up to be a police officer, technically you belong to the city, to the county, to the state, to the federal government. You are you're that.
Yeah.
And so now you've experienced all this trauma from the job on top of your unresolved trauma from your life. And if you don't have a positive outlet, you're going to, according to Anna Freudian's displacement theory, you're going to displace it on your wife. She can't take that.
Right.
You're going to displace it on your kids. They can't take that. So she's going to leave you. Now you got more family trauma on top of that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You see what I'm saying? Then you become a workaholic. Workaholism. Alcohol isn't the greatest drug, right? Narcotics isn't the greatest drug. Sex isn't the greatest drug. Work isn't the greatest drug. The greatest drug is trauma, because trauma is the gateway for the other isms you will use to cope.
It's crazy.
Makes sense, don't it?
It do, but it's just like, it's crazy.
Why you think you got a bunch of cops taking off-duty side gigs? Because the 6 figures they make on the department, the close to 5 figures ain't enough. See, I'm here at home, but I don't know how to deal with all this stuff. Oh, because there's still voids from your personal life that your parents didn't teach you.
That's crazy. But why not just go get like that extra therapy? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but see, here's this. What kind of therapy? If you go see a psychologist, these psychologists, especially in Illinois, the minute you go see a psychologist, they may take away your gun, which means you can't be the police if you can't carry a gun.
Right.
And if you can't carry a gun, you can't make that money. And if I can't make that money, I can't get that honey. And if I can't get that honey, you see what I'm saying? You see how it connects?
Yeah.
And so they stuff it.
Yeah.
Instead of finding someone, a community. Now just imagine all that stuff I just said to you. Let's divide it into black community, white community. Both officers still experiencing the same thing on the job. But the white community, I hate to say it, but it's true, they have more of an internal resource to help each other, support each other. Blue Lives Matter. Yeah. Oh, Blue Lives Matter is right. No, they're supporting each other because that's, hey, we all we got. Black community, oh, you still an op.
Yeah.
Bitch, that's what you signed up for.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So ain't no love on this side, but there's love amongst themselves on this side.
Yeah.
What if those 5 officers, okay, we could go the malicious way, right? But what if these 5 officers became the Scorpion unit and decided to victimize other blacks because in their childhood, they were victimized? Don't make it legal,
Right.
but it explains why they did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We don't know. And here's this. They gonna demonize them 5 boys.
Yeah.
They gonna get chastised. But guess what? I'm gonna give you a case in point. Jason Van Dyke, Chicago, killed Laquan McDonald, convicted, sentenced, out on parole. You don't hear nothing about him anymore. And guess what? The internal community is taking care of Jason and his family. His wife didn't leave him. His people didn't leave his side. When he was going through everything he was going through, he had a community to support him, even though what he did was wrong.
Yeah.
Ooh. What are these 5 men, what are their families saying about them? I guarantee you they're going to find one baby mama, one ex-wife, one person. I knew he had problems. I knew he was going to be this when I asked him to do this for his son, Lil Demetrius Wick Jr. And and he ain't do it for him. I told you. And he hit me. See, look. Ah! And then he hit me. See, they're not going to tell the truth about what happened in that scenario. She slapped him and he hit her back just as a response. They going to find all the negative shit about him. He didn't have a family of community for support before he got into the job, during the job, and he definitely ain't going to have one now. And how many people are going to leave them just by them being charged, convicted, sentenced?
And you know what's so crazy? The white police officers that did what they did to the black men and stuff like that, they got leave of absence with pay. And then they got fired.
Immediately.
They got fired.
Immediately.
But the white ones, leave of absence with pay.
Well, now they starting to get fired too. But you right, though. You right.
That's crazy.
You right. But see, here's the difference, though. If you look at the videos, the evidence in those other white cases, you don't have evidence of the conspiracy to cover it up on the body camera. Here, you got these 5 black guys conspiring to get the story straight and laughing.
I didn't see that.
Right, that's body cam 4.
Okay.
And laughing and joking about it. Now that they laughing and joking about it, hey, we can't keep that. Like, what could the Memphis Police Association, which is the union for those Memphis cops, what can we say? We can't say shit about this. At least if there's no evidence that they try to come, we can at least try to have their back until the verdict.
Right.
Here, we can't. And that's what I'm saying. Where's the off-duty counsel?
Yeah.
Where's the off-duty, where's the retired black law enforcement officer that these boys could have went to, where one of them could have said, hey, look, Sarge, let's say he retired, Sarge, I want to beat the shit out this one dude. And the retired officer's like, I know what you feel, but let me tell you why you shouldn't do that. You beat the shit out of him. You see how Officer Sklarowitz, he gonna get away with that. Maybe, maybe not. They gonna hang your ass. He gonna be able to get away with that. They gonna hang your ass. Why? They're looking for someone to make an example to build the trust back in law enforcement. And if you do that, don't get me wrong, your feelings are validated. Not legal, but they're validated. I get why you want to. You see what I'm saying? We can't shame people for feeling the way they feel if we're trying to help them.
Right.
Right? How could you feel like that? No. Acknowledge those feelings. Guide him into the direction as to why that's not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Legally, he knows it's not the right thing to do, but maybe he's got that unresolved trauma, and these retired law enforcement officers could help these people.
Yeah.
But they gone off to retirement. Fuck y'all.
Yeah.
So now you ain't got a community, you ain't got a community, so now they got to deal with it themselves on the streets. It's crazy.
Sad.
They gonna burn the shit out those guys.
Yeah.
But a lot of black
It's
law
an
enforcement
example they
officers
need,
don't
though.
have a community that throws itself out there. Hey, go to the commander. Hey, how many rookies you got? New guys. Okay, cool. Give them my card. Matter of fact, could you open up the squad room and then I'll introduce myself to them and tell them they need to meet me off the job at this place and we could talk about some stuff, or tell them to give me a call? Okay, let's do that. You know what I'm saying? You got the retired guys who ain't no longer the police. They could reach back and try to help, but you got to want to do that.
Yeah.
And if they don't want to do that, you know what I'm saying? So, unfortunately, that's what it is. Hate to say it.